Hello, it is Thursday, May 12th, 2022 at 6:39 p.m. Eastern Time. This is my video journal. I'm Mitch Miller. So I enter thoughts into this machine, and then I go to work the next day and things bounce around in my head and come up with new ideas. It's all part of the Wi-Fi network we're all connected to, right? On that note, I thought of something else I would do as chairman of the FCC. And I'm going to update my Mitch for Mayor website to reflect this on that website. As chairman of the FCC, I would push for regulation, or I would require, as chairman of the FCC, I would require all Wi-Fi routers, all new Wi-Fi routers must not only transmit and receive the waves that they're qualified to use, but they must also receive and scan for all wireless waves, every spectrum of wireless waves within the house. Then the person that owns the Wi-Fi router, the homeowner, must have an easy-to-use account or display somehow connected to the Wi-Fi router that they can reference to see exactly what waves are being transmitted through their house. Every American has the right to know what waves are being transmitted through their property. And so it would display the Wi-Fi waves, how many gigahertz those are being transmitted, and it fluctuates. It could be in real time. AM, FM radio waves, broadcast television waves, mobile telephone waves, any waves approved by the FCC for use to be broadcast through the air will be displayed on a account held by the Wi-Fi router owner, and it will show exactly what intensity of each wave is being broadcast through the home, and what type of wave it is, and it will track it in real time. You'll be able to see a graph if it spikes at certain times. All that information must be available if you're going to sell a Wi-Fi router. If you're going to manufacture a Wi-Fi router, the only way it can be sold in the United States is if it has this feature from here on out. So I know I'm fighting an uphill battle to try to convince people that these wireless waves are detrimental to mental health. They cause illness, I believe. I know I'm on an uphill battle to try to convince people that it's too convenient for them. They lean towards convenience. They don't want to be inconvenienced by the idea that these wireless waves are harmful. So they're going to listen to whoever says otherwise, that they're not harmful. So I know I'm fighting an uphill battle, but shouldn't everybody at least have the right to know? And wouldn't you at least like to know how much wireless energy is being broadcast through your property? I mean, just for curious sake, even if you don't want to admit that it is harmful, wouldn't you like to know? Shouldn't every American have the right to know what's being broadcast through their houses, through their property, through their bodies, and through their brains? So that's my commitment as chairman of the FCC. As I said, I would develop an accreditation system for news media organizations to get us on track to having truth-based news instead of fake news. And this is the second thing I promise. All Wi-Fi routers sold in the United States must have a display that shows how much wireless energy is striking that device at any given time. So that's what I came up with today. And you can obviously see it spins off of what I said yesterday, how we could download software onto my televisions and track these waves to see if there are unknown waves in my house while my wife is gone. Or even when she's here. She's not sensitive to wireless waves, so it probably doesn't affect her. I can hear them. I used to sit in my living room and hear the waves actually transition, and it was like the wind blowing in a different direction. I could hear the waves shift. And I think it was that one across the street that was doing that one. I don't know. It's all speculation, and as the FBI told me, they can't just knock on people's door and say, hey, do you have a big wireless transmitter you're shooting at your neighbor? So that's how they end up on the news, is what I was told. So they can't investigate that. Even though I think you could investigate the households around me by hacking their wireless network and their cable boxes and looking for electric signatures for devices that are unknown. You can find the electric signature of every appliance in the house, and then if you have one that doesn't sync up with any known appliance, you might have a device. Anyhow, the second thing I want to talk about is another campaign promise if I was President of the United States. And it has to do with CEOs and executives making hundreds or thousands times more than their lowest paid employee. That can continue under the United States capitalist model, but if your corporation takes any type of subsidy from the federal government or gets any kind of tax break or incentive from the federal government, your pay structure must mirror that of the federal government. So your pay structure must mirror that of the United States federal government. And what I mean by that is, say the President of the United States is the most highly paid executive in the federal government. He or she makes, we'll say, I don't know how much they make, we'll say $400,000 a year. And let's say the lowest paid federal employee in the United States is paid $50,000 a year. So that's 8 to 1. The lowest paid employee, or the highest paid executive of the President of the United States, makes 8 times more than the lowest paid employee in the federal government. So whatever that ratio works out to, we'll say 8 to 1 for example. That means any corporation that takes a federal tax subsidy, gets a tax break, they can only pay their CEO, their top executive, 8 times more than the lowest paid employee in the corporation. And they'll have to open up their payroll information for us to inspect. Now this means two things. The lowest paid employees in a lot of corporations will get huge raises so that CEOs can keep their there's no limit to what you pay your employees with what I propose. So you could make all employees make $100,000 or $200,000 a year so that these executives can keep getting $2 million, $5 million a year compensation packages. And you may say this is a democratic. Well, here's the thought process. That pay structure is good enough for the federal government, the leader of the free world. So why wouldn't it be good enough for your corporation, especially if you're taking tax breaks? And I believe in capitalism, so if you don't like it, model your business so that you don't take a subsidy or a tax incentive. Model your business under capitalism so that you don't take a subsidy or a tax incentive from the federal government. Get off corporate welfare. We're done with corporate welfare. If you want corporate welfare, You have to model your pay structure after the federal government. End of story. And you may say this is a Democratic way of thinking, that this is not Republican at all. And I run down the middle with a lot of my policies. I'm independent. I borrow from I expand on the Republican ways of thinking and the Democratic ways of thinking. And this is just as much Republican as Democratic. Because if you truly believe in capitalism, then you shouldn't be taking kickbacks and subsidies and tax breaks from the federal government. You should come up with an idea and grow a business that doesn't rely on corporate welfare. You say people at the lowest poverty rates in the United States shouldn't be on welfare, but you agree with big energy companies getting all kinds of corporate welfare. So make up your mind, Republicans. This isn't anti-Republican, and this isn't a far-left policy. This is a policy that makes sense. We're going to get executives off welfare. So that's all I have to say today. I hope you'll vote for me for President of the United States. This has been my video journal. Thanks for watching. Oh, on a closing note, this Sunday at sundown, I will be doing a fire walk. The fire walk is something that my fraternity did. At the end of every semester we had a Hell Week where we did not strike or hit pledges, but we put them through an ordeal. Some would say is hazing. And at the end of that ordeal, we did a fire walk where all of the Brotherhood would walk in circles around lit candles to music. And it was my favorite part of the fraternity traditions. So I'm going to do a fire walk by myself in the first story of my house with some candles lit on Sunday night at sundown, and I will be playing Bolero, my fraternity song, on vinyl. I have 3 versions of the Bolero, so I will play all 3 versions of Bolero, walk in circles in honor of the fraternity, and keep the tradition going. So if you're a Pilam out there anywhere watching this, join me on Sunday, this Sunday the 15th, for a fire walk at sundown, approximately 9 or 9:30, 9-ish Eastern Time, United States. Join me for a fire walk. I'm not going to video it, but my devices will be downstairs and my television's in my living room, which is connected to the internet and could be listened through, I guess, since the CIA warned everybody that smart TVs can listen to you. Thanks for watching. Join me wherever you are and keep the tradition going.